Coming up on Tech News Today, how CISPA could affect you and whether it's going to pass the Senate. Also, Google doesn't have the most popular Android distro out there. Who does? And Nokia's fall from grace. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, April 27th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Meet face-to-face from anywhere in the world with GoToMeeting with HD Faces. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com, promo code TNT. And by Ford, featuring voice-activated Sync App Link. Now you can control select smartphone apps with your voice, helping you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. Learn more about the technologies Ford is bringing to its vehicles at Ford.com/technology. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And can I speak now,
Yeah,
Tom?
go ahead.
I'm Chad Johnson.
Makes his day. Can't deny him anything. Welcome to Tech News Today, where we kick around the tech news of the day and try to make sense of it all, was what it says in my script. It's a very scripted show.
That sounds good.
That sounds familiar.
It's a good idea.
We should do that this week.
We just do, we go right by, we write this entire show out. Everything we say is on a prompter from the beginning.
You're being recursive again.
That's what it said for you to say.
I know.
And that's what it said for me to say.
Breaking the wall. Breaking the wall.
Now it says I should talk about CISPA, the cybersecurity bill.
No, it doesn't. Apple TV.
What? Oh, right. You know what? Yeah.
Yeah, they
real
put that
quickly.
in the last second.
This
Reuters,
just in.
I just got it from the script supervisor.
Reuters report has a change. Reuters reporting that Apple, according to people familiar with the matter, was talking to Epix, which is a movie channel, about something with the Apple TV. And now everybody's going crazy saying, Apple TV!
It's Epix is owned by Lionsgate,
Right.
MGM and Paramount.
So
there you go.
Okay.
Another rumor to add to the stack.
So it must mean we're getting the Apple TV somewhere around the new iPhone, right? October.
Sure, that's what it says to say. Sure.
That's what
It's
people
almost
want.
as if the
so that's why
television
they're
industry is
creating
changing.
these.
Television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
know.
rumor industry is changing. All right, now let's talk about the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, which passed the House of Representatives in the United States yesterday. We talked about it briefly in the calendar. TC Sadek on The Verge and Declan McCullough on CNET both have really good articles up if you want to go in depth on this. But we're going to try to give you a summary primer today on Tech News Today. It will be debated and voted on by the Senate next. They've had cybersecurity bills in the Senate for quite a while. None of them have been making progress, although Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid says he wants to bring this to a vote in May on the House, or I'm sorry, on the Senate floor. The White House has indicated that the president likely would veto the bill as it was passed by the House, but of course the Senate could modify it, it could get changed. All of that's yet to come. Originally, the bill was meant to combat cyber threats. It has been expanded to include quote-unquote national security, which is one of the reasons people are very worried about it. Essentially what it says, self-protected entities, and that means private companies, Facebook, Google, get the right to use cybersecurity systems to obtain threat information to protect their rights and property. Why do they need that? Either, well, don't they have that right already? Well, there's lots of regulations about the privacy of the information they collect about you. What this bill is trying to say is when they're trying to fight cyber criminals, they get to obtain information to help protect their rights and property. So far, so good. They also get the right to share threat information with any other entity, including the federal government. And there's all kinds of regulations about what can be shared with the federal government. This says, hey, you're trying to stop intrusions into a network. You can share that information with the feds so that everybody can help each other out. Okay. Here's where it starts to cause concern for a lot of people. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, a self-protected entity may, for cybersecurity purposes, use cybersecurity systems to identify and obtain cyber threat information to protect the rights and property, and share such cyber threat information with any other entity. Now, that's the two things I just said, notwithstanding any other provision of law. In other words, any privacy laws that already exist on the books in any state or locality are null and void in the face of this. That means they can share information on customers with the government as long as they can make a justification that it pertains to a cyber threat. An amendment by Representative Ben Quayle limits that in a way, but also expands it at the same time. They can only do it if it has to do with cybersecurity, cybercrime, protecting people from harm, specifically death or bodily injury, protecting children, or
you got to get that in the bill.
National security. National security becomes one of those kind of open things that's open to interpretation. Under existing federal law, any person or company who helps someone intercept any wire, oral, or electronic communication, unless specifically authorized by law, could face criminal charges unless they do it for cybersecurity. Because what CISPA does is indemnifies them against being sued if they make a mistake. If they take some of your information out of Facebook.
I thought that you might have compromised our national security, but we were wrong. And oops, nothing bad happens to us.
Sarah Lane was trying to harm public or private systems and networks, possibly trying to steal or wrongfully possess public or private data, intellectual property, or personally identifiable information. So we gave all of her information to the government, and then they audited her.
I mean, rumor has it she does run a botnet. So, it just makes sense that you would give it to the government.
What bothers me the most about this hypothetical scenario is that I don't necessarily know a thing about what this service, company and service is sharing with the government. So,
just like you don't know when your email is being read. I mean, I read your email every time you send it to me.
Yeah, but that is illegal.
Every time she sends it to me.
No, she has a term of service in her email. It says, please don't read this. It's at the very end of the email.
At the bottom. I hate that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, but getting back to CISPA, what it does, it says, look, if you could make any kind of claim that it has to do with cybersecurity, including intellectual property, so a lot of people, that's where people start comparing it to SOPA, the government cannot demand more information than a self-protected company authorizes, but the company can share as much information as they want with the government. So a lot of the defense of this says, look, the government can't take anything that the private companies don't give you, so don't do business or give your private information to any company you don't trust. But you do have to trust the companies. The companies can give the government any information they think they can justifiably say is part of a cybersecurity investigation. They are indemnified against liability for mistakes they make when sharing that information anyway. And this trumps any privacy law. So if they do share something, they say, oh, we made a mistake. We thought it was cybersecurity. You can't go after them. You can't punish them. It's much too wide at the end.
That's all it is, though, is an indemnification thing. I mean, they can already share with the government. In fact, there's already organizations in which exist to act as a proxy between the government and private
Forbes
industry.
has a story about that today, right?
Right. So how does this change anything other than to say, it'll be cool, don't worry, you're not going to get sued if you do this?
It says the FBI doesn't have to use the workaround. Right now, the FBI works in cooperation with a nonprofit that allows them to kind of work around the regulations to get information. This says, let's short-circuit that, which I'm not against saying, look, let's not have a bunch of crazy regulations. If you want to actually work on cybersecurity, let's have a free flow of information. I'm all for free flow of information. That's why I like open source. But we should have the right to sue if that information is misused and mistakes are made. You should still have to, you shouldn't be indemnified against like, oh, we gave all of our information to the government.
And citizens being kept in the dark through the whole thing.
So, like, for example, if Facebook thinks, oh, you know what, that botnet that Sarah Lane is running, we got to take that down. Let's give that to the government. The government comes, knocks on Sarah's door, ruins her life. And it turns out she actually wasn't running the botnet. It was Iyaz the whole time.
And I was in no communication with anyone because I had no idea that I was being misrepresented somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one of the big problems I have with this is, and to use Facebook as an example again, although, of course, this would apply to a lot of other companies, I have to put a lot of trust in Facebook to be policing their own network and to be smart enough to know the difference between an actual threat and something that's being misread. Now, okay, if I trust Facebook unconditionally, then this isn't a problem. But I don't think most people feel that way. I don't think really anybody feels that way. And if I can't have any idea of what's going on behind the scenes, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the default mindset should be that any information that you give another company is going to, could potentially make its way to the government. And so the question is, like, how paranoid are you? Do you have a tinfoil hat on? Do you have something to hide from the government? In which case, why are you on Facebook?
And even if these companies go ahead and put out a statement, Facebook has done this saying they didn't like certain provisions about this, but they were behind it as well.
And they still are.
Right. So the thing is, they can say all they want. We're going to protect your stuff. But if you never know, what's the difference? Everybody will say, we're protecting your stuff. We got your back. But
that was the same thing the MPAA and RIAA said about SOPA, which is, yeah, sure, I guess you could interpret it to mean all of those things, but we're not going to use it for that. Facebook's now saying that. Like, oh, I guess somebody could abuse this and hand over stuff to the government, but we're not going to do that.
Well, there's somewhere that can be abused, it will be abused.
Yeah. Actually, what I think should happen with CISPA in the Senate is that it should be modified to be narrowed so that you have the easier cooperation of the law enforcement with private companies, but without the lack of accountability.
See, they were trying to narrow that, right, with this amendment saying that it's pertaining to cyber threat. And then in that definition, there's still a vague word in there that makes it national security.
Well, so cyber threat, national security, and protecting the children.
Protecting children from exploitation. So, like, you always have that. That's always in there. But, like, when you define this and then you start writing a definition for each and everything, it starts getting – every provision is going to be gamed. That's one of the big problems. Like, it doesn't matter how much you write and write and write. The thing is, for me, I've done this whole law school thing. Constitutional law has very, very few things that are written down, and that gets interpreted thousands of ways. Tax law has like millions of things written down, and they get interpreted the same amount of ways, even though you've written everything out. You think you got it locked up. Sometimes the vaguer provisions, these provisions that are vague, well, they shouldn't be unconstitutionally vague, but if they're vague, they can be narrowed by courts that are using some kind of common sense to do this, because it's very hard
but you
to ever craft
you don't know where it's going to be narrowed toward. That's the problem.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's why it's this kind of where's the line of a perfect law, and you're probably never going to find one, but this one still has these kind of, come on, seriously, you can't put this national security in there and not define it.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't think this is as bad as SOPA at the beginning, because I think it is important that we work to better protect the internet from malware, from vulnerabilities, because as you well know, Darren, like it's a jungle out there, and most people are not prepared.
Yeah, but also most people are on like Facebook and other social networks just giving up stuff willy-nilly and not thinking about
that's
security.
the other side of it, isn't it, right?
Yeah. So it's like
we worry about our privacy, but you're actually giving away your privacy to a lot of these companies.
So maybe join something a little more secure.
Well, that might be an interesting thing if this did pass as written in the U.S. House, is to say, okay, companies, we're only going to do business with you if in your terms of service you agree not to turn over information under CISPA.
Mm-hmm. Or just
without telling me.
Or just share your stuff on social networks that don't exist with companies, that aren't visible to the government.
Yeah. So there you go. I encourage folks to go out and check this out. It is not as clear-cut in the tech community as Stop Online Piracy Act was. The CTIA, Facebook, Verizon, AT&T, Intel, Oracle, Microsoft all support CISPA. The EFF, ACLU, American Library Association, the Libertarian Tech Freedom Organization, all are opposed to it. So it's a different set of lines lining up. And that's one interesting thing. People said, oh, well, Google will protect us from things like SOPA. Google hasn't taken a side in this as far as I know, but you can't count on the big companies to protect you against things that they see as in their interest, and somebody like Facebook thinks this is in their interest. Let's move on to something a little more lighthearted. There is a most popular Android operating system out there that is not the one Google makes.
Not gingerbread?
What could it be?
It's not ice cream sandwich. It's not gingerbread.
It is the Amazon Kindle Fire. Not a huge surprise, but there's some really interesting numbers coming out of a ComScore study that was conducted back in February that estimated Android tablet market share by tracking device traffic online. Turns out 54% of all Android tablets are Kindle Fires. That's over half, people. The second most popular tablet is way behind. That's the Samsung Galaxy Tab, just over 15% of the market. Then it goes to the Motorola Xoom with 7% share, the Asus Transformer with 6.3%, and finally the Toshiba AT100 with 5.7% of the market. So far and away, it is the market for a Kindle Fire. And it's interesting that the Fire almost doubled its share of market in the past 2 months, from 29.4 back in December, so during and before the holidays, to 54.4 as of February of this year.
You think it would have taken a little bit of a dip after the holidays, but it didn't.
Well, we were wondering.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
the
think it's been a
holiday,
pretty strong
obviously.
Q1, or
Yeah.
at least from my perspective.
Well, yeah, exactly. Amazon obviously runs on a forked version of Android. It's also the cheapest of all of the tablets that we ran off of the most popular. Not only is it the most popular by a lot, but it's the cheapest. Kindle obviously launched back in November for $199. Launched earlier this month in Europe, although these numbers only apply to the U.S. Market share. Amazon doesn't release Kindle sales figures, but they have said after a very good Q1 that the Kindle Fire remains their best-selling, their most gifted, and their most wished-for product.
It's funny to me that they won't release sales figures, but they will release wish figures.
That's right. Well, I don't know. I guess it helps
wish I could
people
hold
continue
stock.
to wish for things. What's also interesting about the ComScore study, larger screen tablets, so the 10-inch tablets, for example, result in higher levels of content consumption. 10-inch tablets have a 39% higher consumption rate than 7-inch tablets. Now, I would argue that is partially because of just the screen size and how some things are more enjoyable on a
Sit there
larger
and
screen.
watch some video on a larger screen. Yeah.
And also maybe a little bit of the Kindle Fire is cheaper. It does a few things really well. Maybe I just pick it up when I think about it because it was only $200. And if I've spent a lot more money, for like the 10.1-inch Galaxy Tab, for example, I'm going to put more effort into using this thing because I, plunked down $500.
I'm not sure how they measure content consumption either, but sitting there reading a book on a Kindle Fire is not streaming anything over the internet. It's not
Right.
using any bits.
They actually have browser page views per tablet. That's at least in their consumption numbers. But that makes actually more sense why you would want a larger screen, why you would continue to use it, because you're not pinching and zooming and moving around. I think this will change with resolutions as well. If you have a 5-inch device that has a really good resolution, you don't have to do the pinch and zoom kind of thing. So you might be consuming more content. But I know that when I tried out the Fire, what drove me nuts is that browser, because you have to keep scrolling around. It might as well be on a phone at that point. With something that's a 10-inch device with a higher resolution, I don't have to pinch and zoom. I have the full page, just like a regular laptop.
They'll take care of the the Kindle resolution in the next rev, and you know that they're already working on that. I don't find it too odd that it is, taking up so much market share of Android tablets, because you look at the other ones that were its predecessor, and really Honeycomb, I'm sorry, but I don't think it was that strong of an offering at the time. I mean, sure, they beat like tremendously on price with the Kindle Fire at $200, but at the time, the Google Play Store wasn't out, and it didn't have all of the things that it has now, and it wasn't so much of a cohesive ecosystem as Amazon has, and they've really simplified that UI and coupled that with the the ecosystem that for a lot of people they're already familiar with.
They make it really easy to use, and of course that's going to make people want to pick it up and use it, although apparently not consume content. Onward to another new number one, this time in the world handset market. Often when we talk about Nokia's troubles, we say, you know what, but they're still the number one cell phone maker in the world. That is no longer true. IHS iSupply and Strategy Analytics both released their numbers and put Samsung as the new number one handset maker in the world. Samsung shipped 92 million handsets according to IHS iSupply. That's down 13%. But Nokia shipped 83 million, and that's down 27%. Apple and LG and RIM round out the rest of the top five. Strategy Analytics has Samsung with 25.4% of the world market, Nokia with 22.5% of the world market, and Apple with 9.5% of the world market. This ends 14 years of Nokia as the world's top phone maker. So a very significant day, and not a good one for Stephen Elop.
Yeah, in fact,
wow, 14 years.
For Samsung, this is 40% of their business now are these smartphones. So, they've
the
really
mobile
ramped up.
mobile businesses, yeah. I mean, some of that's tablets too, but yeah. I mean, you're talking about a company that does televisions. They do monitors. They do chips. So this is,
and, depending on whose analytics that you trust, whether it's Strategy Analytics or iSupply, anywhere between 44.5 and 32 million. That compared to Apple with 35 million iPhones.
Apple actually reported 35 million in their earnings call. So IHS iSupply has Apple number one in smartphones. We're talking smartphones, not total handsets. Strategy Analytics has Samsung number one with 44.5. So it depends on how you estimate it. Samsung did have their earnings report, and revenue was up 98% year over year, a record $4.46 billion of profit for Q1. And during the earnings call, Senior Vice President Robert Yee, near the very end, said, we are anticipating very strong demand for the Galaxy S3.
Oh, well, there you have it.
Now, yesterday I asked, how can they keep the S3 in the news, right? They leaked the processor yesterday. The day before, in the Unpacked app again, S3. Today we have news that he calls it the S3. So congratulations, Samsung.
Does that
That's 3
mean
days in
that
a
he's
row.
confirming that that's the Galaxy S3, that's the name? Or is it just, we're all calling it that because we don't know what else to call it? And he
I
did that
think
too.
they know exactly what they're going to call it. Come on. At this point in the game, is he just going to whoops, I said the wrong name.
No, but if
They could pull a Nintendo and not go Revolution.
If he knows what the real name is,
Yeah.
but he's like, well, I'm not allowed to reveal the real name, but I have to call it something on the earnings call, I'll just call it the Galaxy S3 because that's the then everybody knows what I'm talking
all the
about, but I don't
PR
reveal
I don't know.
the
It
real
seems
name.
a little deliberate.
All the PR is the next Galaxy, so maybe he would have said the next Galaxy phone at least, but not that kind of slip. I'm pretty sure the S3 is probably at least an internal name, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
an internal working title, but you know how those go.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
we've saw what does Steve Jobs keep doing? He kept calling it the iTV when they changed it to Apple TV or the MacBooks when they switched it from PowerBook. They were like, they're so used to saying what they've been developing for so long that who knows.
Yeah.
So we'll find out next week.
It shouldn't
2
be a
weeks.
real
May
surprise,
3rd.
though. You got a successful phone, you're going to do a sequel,
Well, yeah, we just don't know
Iteration
what
of
it's
it, all
called.
S3, the Revengeing.
Yes.
The phoning.
Revenge of the Galaxy S.
They're going to call it the iPhone, EYE
Or maybe it's
FON.
the Galaxy Strikes Back.
Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, GoToMeeting by Citrix. If you want to have a good, productive meeting, it's best to be able to see people, but you can't always get everybody in one place. You want to be able to attach a face to a name, too, when you're meeting new people. That is why we recommend GoToMeeting with HD Faces. It enhances our relationships, enhances the way we do business, makes it easy to get along with new clients and old clients, all your colleagues. So try it out. All it takes is a webcam and a click, and you're collaborating in a group with HD video. You can see your attendants eye to eye while collaborating on documents in real time. You'll feel instantly connected, even if you're thousands of miles apart. Somebody's evening in Beijing and it's morning in Moscow. You're all on the same page because you can collaborate on documents, see each other. Plus, GoToMeeting is easy to set up and simple to use. We use it for meetings right here at TWiT, so you should too. Start hosting your own face-to-face online meetings today with GoToMeeting. Our audience could try it free for 30 days, too. You don't have to pay a dime to try it out. Visit GoToMeeting.com, GoToMeeting.com. Click that Try It Free button, and then enter this promo code, TNT, for Tech News Today. That's the promo code TNT. Visit GoToMeeting.com. Try it out for free for 30 days. And we thank Citrix and GoToMeeting for their support of Tech News Today. The U.S. case against Google, getting serious.
Yeah, it is. The Federal Trade Commission, which is examining Google's search technology on Thursday, hired Beth Wilkinson, who is a former Justice Department prosecutor. You may remember her name because she was key in the conviction of Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber. And, people are saying that this really points out how the FTC is, playing hardball and getting serious on this potential case. And experts are even pointing out that the hiring of Wilkinson is kind of similar to the hiring of David Boies, who was representing the DOJ in the United States versus Microsoft case back in '98. So,
he's actually the Oracle.
He's doing the Oracle case now.
The Google Oracle case.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he's back in the news, and Douglas Broder, he's written several antitrust law textbooks and whatnot. Says that it's totally plausible that they could actually prove an abuse or a power or monopoly case. And the general gist of it basically is the investigation of whether Google abuses its internet search power. Google, of course, controlling 66% of the U.S. internet search market, according to ComScore, with Bing at 15% and Yahoo at 14%. Critics arguing that Google is manipulating their results by hiding competitors and showing Google assets. Google's actually just asserting that competition's just a click away. And
the U.S. isn't the only one.
No,
right?
no, they're not. In fact, from the last year, both South Korea and Argentina have been investigating whether or not Google accepts payments for placement in search results.
And Europe's investigating this as well. It comes down to this. I mean, we'll see what the Federal Trade Commission does legally and how the law reacts to this. But just before we get to that, before we get to the court side, do you think Google is abusing their power?
I would wish that I could just say, oh, well, let me just check the Bing results and see how they compare. But Bing results are just, They just scrape them from Google, don't they?
No. What are you trying? No,
Remember,
they don't.
They totally got in trouble for that a while ago.
They were doing a little bit of scraping,
bit-
but
a
that
little
wasn't.
scraping?
They weren't using. Bing has their own index. That's
Okay.
unfair.
All right.
I
I'm
think that is
sorry.
totally unfair.
You're right. I shouldn't throw that out there.
Bing was trying to react to Google results with some scraping. You're right. There was a story about that. But Bing does their own indexing.
Yeah. So,
and,
there's
Ask.com is out there. 66% is predominant, but it's certainly not dominant.
Yeah, there are alternatives. I mean, Dogpile still exists. Lycos, Metacrawler, Alta Vista.
Bing's pretty much. Yahoo and Bing are the same. That's 29%. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much between Google and Bing at this point.
I don't know if they're abusing anything. Like when they did something like that personalized search where you would get results from your friends, that's when they started doing like
Search plus your world.
Thank you. That thing kind of annoyed users because this is not the experience that you want to have. And if they did more of that kind of stuff, that's what I'd say become like an abuse. You're like always seeing YouTube first, or you're always seeing Google properties first. And I don't think that's at least in my searches, that's not the case when I'm looking for anything. And Google owns so many different properties out there that when I look up something like an Office product, I might see Zoho. I might not see Google Docs right away, or Office 365. So I don't, because it actually works well, I think that's why I don't think they're abusing anything. Because I think you get wise to that after a while. You go, these top 3 results are always the same. I'm always going to skip down to number 4 because you kind of get used to that search, I would imagine.
I feel the same way as you, and actually I have to say that there have been a couple instances where Search Plus Your World has been relevant to me, where I'm like, ooh, Robert Scoble must have interviewed these guys of this company that I'm doing a search for. Maybe I'll watch this. So I don't think it's bad to make sure that stuff is surfacing when you're doing searches, but I don't know that everyone else, as far as just the greater users of Google, agrees with you and me, where they know for sure, okay, those are sponsored. It's kind of obvious. They're up at the top.
I don't know.
And that's why that's the problem, right? Is that people are being, it's not that they're being duped. It's just that they don't realize how these sorts of things are put together.
Yeah, well, you're right. I think you're absolutely on the right track there, because if I, for instance, I just searched for washing machines in an incognito browser, and the first 2 links that I saw are one for Lowe's and one for Home Depot. And depending on the way that I tilt my LCD screen, I may or may not notice that they actually have a background that's pound FFF8E7.
A light gray.
Yeah, well, I think it's a light yellow, kind of maybe a canary
beigey
yellow.
beigey
Yeah,
canary.
beigey yellow or something. I don't know. Well,
Something subtle.
maybe they could change the pound FFF8E7 to like fuchsia, and then we could go
Make it blink.
make it blink, give it an animated GIF. Remember those animated GIFs of the
Scrolling
rainbows?
banner.
And the,
Nobody's going to pay it for placement anymore.
what are you talking about? Or sparkles. Remember MySpace? We could get some animated sparkle GIFs.
I think it comes down to the fact that Google is now doing other things. If Google was just a search engine, then I don't think there'd be a lot of controversy here, because it's sort of like, you know what, it's their website. They can link to whatever they want. The fact that Google is not only dominant in search, but they now have a very predominant email service. So if you search email and suddenly somebody's competitive email service doesn't show up, then that would be grounds for concern.
Actually, I
That
just
does-
searched email, and the first link is Yahoo.
That doesn't happen. Exactly. So what's happening is some smaller companies are upset with their search placement in PageRank. And they also engage in a business that Google happens to also engage in. And therefore, they're claiming it's discrimination. And what the FTC and all these other investigative agencies have to determine is the PageRank just not very good? Is this company just not very popular? Or is Google abusing its power? And that's what it comes down to. I mean, Bing, when you search for email, does Hotmail come up first? I mean, Microsoft is engaged in just as many, if not more, businesses as Google that they could be favoring as well, but Bing isn't as popular. And that's the only reason they're not coming under the gun as much.
You know what I could totally see being the silver bullet for Google to do? I mean, it might be a kind of a risky move for them, but depending on how much heat comes up, they could totally just be like, all right, you know what? Table flip, open source their engine. Then you can't say jack, because it's like, boom, open source engine.
That's a really good thought. I mean, frankly, and Padre SJ sort of alluded to this just now in the chat room. If Microsoft didn't get convicted and punished for a lot of the things that they had done with Windows, 90% of the operating systems, Google at 66% has got a pretty good chance of being able to defend itself.
Well, wait a second. They had to like rip out Internet Explorer from their European
In
version.
Europe.
Well, that's not like something simple.
No.
And that's killed. That's killed them.
No, what I'm saying is, it's not
dude.
that they weren't punished. They weren't investigated and fined for days on end with these monstrous fines. I mean, it's not like it changed anything, but I'm saying like they got in trouble for it. It wasn't like they went like scot-free.
Can you imagine, though? Because if the EU can get Microsoft to rip Internet Explorer out of the operating system, what could happen if they convinced Google to rip Chrome out of the Chrome OS?
You have Linux.
Oh, wait.
I think that is, they've bundled Chrome into the Chrome OS.
Bundled Chrome into Chrome OS,
they should be fined for that, Europe. Get on that. All right, let's move on to Nintendo. Really disappointing earnings for them yesterday, but they've got some strategies.
They got some plans. The future's in downloadable games. That's what the president of Nintendo said, that Wii U games and 3DS games will be available through its eShop. Now, the first two games are a brain training game and some little game. I'm sure nobody's going to buy it. New Super Mario Bros. 2. That's going to be available in August. That's going to be a download. It's going to be available in brick-and-mortar stores still. You can get an activation code for the digital download. It's unclear whether third-party games will be downloadable, though. Downloaded titles, by the way, are kind of tied to the specific 3DS you bought it on. So when you buy a game, it's stuck on your 3DS. So you're not going to be able to share it. So decide whether you want to buy a game that way or not. And don't forget, if you are concerned about space, Nintendo doesn't have that weird lock-in kind of proprietary memory stuff. They have SD cards. You can go ahead and buy them all you want, and you can load up everything you want there. But then again, don't forget, they're locked to your system.
I am excited about the Wii U, but the rest of this, I mean, I think the 3DS is sort of a lost cause.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think 3D might be a gimmick?
It's not even the 3D. I mean, that's part of it, but it's just the handheld gaming is, it's moving to the phones.
Yeah, well,
except for the really serious handheld gamers, but they're
could you
too
imagine
few to sustain it forever?
Could you imagine Nintendo saying, "All right, we accept the fact that you're not going to put an additional thing in your pocket since you already have an iPhone or an Android or whatever. So we're just going to make a Nintendo App Store that has all the games, and then boom, there you go."
I think that would be smart
because I think I can already get SNES emulators for my phone. They should just be charging.
I think so. I think if they're smart, they'll move that way, but they make less money that way.
And that's why they've hesitated.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, go Buggy Whips.
Yes, the Buggy Whips defense. It will be used by every company till the end of time.
Godwin's law.
He's talking about the fact that Buggy Whip manufacturers protested going out of business when cars came along because you didn't need to whip your engine. You didn't have a horse anymore.
You could. It just doesn't do anything.
It really doesn't help.
I
know you do it, but it's not helping, Iyaz. All right, finally, Yahoo is now mad at Facebook for their countersuit in the patent wars. To catch you up, Yahoo sued Facebook for allegedly infringing 10 patents, 3 of which they acquired from a company called Overture Services. The rest were filed in-house. Everybody got really upset because they're like, Yahoo, you don't do that. That's not the way the patent wars work. Facebook, therefore, armed themselves, accused Yahoo of infringing 10 patents, 3 which they had obtained from New York University researchers, 5 from other companies, all purchased from within the last 5 months. And now Yahoo is upset that Facebook is countersuing, saying Facebook purchased 8 patents from non-practicing entities. That's code word for patent troll. In fact, they responded in the U.S. District Court in San Francisco, accusing Facebook of not acting in good faith. Now, that's a legal term that means something in particular. They're not just maligning them. They're saying that it's like a frivolous lawsuit or something?
Something like that. I don't want to get specific about this.
Right. No, that's okay. But I just want to make sure people know that there's not just name calling. That's a particular motion that they're making. They called the patent acquisitions retaliation and asked the court to declare counterclaims invalid. Yahoo notes that 2 patents were purchased from IPG Electronics 503 Limited, a San Diego-based patent aggregator. 2 patents were purchased from Chia Intellectual Property Licensing, a California-based patent holding company. And 1 patent was purchased from Rights Point LLC, a Texas-based patent aggregator. And 3 patents were purchased from NYU, as we mentioned earlier. So there's Yahoo saying, see, we are only using the patents that we invented ourselves or acquired a company, and we're using these patents. They're using patent trolls. And to add insult to injury, Yahoo now accusing Facebook of violating 2 more patents that they filed in U.S. District Court in San Jose, one about determining the validity of an interaction on a network, the other covering ad placement. Facebook responded by saying, "We remain perplexed by Yahoo's erratic actions. We disagree with these latest claims, and we will continue to defend ourselves vigorously."
So am I getting this right in that Facebook did +10 damage, and then Yahoo invoked the amulet of patent troll?
Well, Yahoo started with +10.
Oh, okay.
Then Facebook did +10. Yes, and then,
gotcha.
then you got it. Yeah, they rolled natural 20s.
Yahoo's basically saying we have We have the good patents, and they're retaliating against us with the BS patents.
Well, here's what's driving me nuts. One, Yahoo's broken this rule before. They sued Google when Google was about to IPO. So this is not a different behavior for them because they see they can make a ton of money by owning a part of Facebook in a settlement. The funny thing that drives me crazy about this is that if Facebook bought it from a non-practicing entity, so the troll, I'll call it a troll, they're not doing anything with it. And Facebook is a practicing entity and can actually use this for something. There's nothing wrong with that. That's like, oh, you had a spare car that you never used, and I bought it from you.
Well, what if Facebook isn't using the patents that they bought except to sue Yahoo? I mean, that's quite possible.
What's the difference?
In other words, Facebook says...
Well, yeah, it's retaliation. You're suing me. It's like, why wouldn't I try to arm myself back? What kind of moron doesn't try to defend themselves?
Well, and this is what's going on. This is such a psychological thing. Yahoo sued Google before the Google IPO, and Silicon Valley didn't react because I think they all felt like, well, you know, there's some validity to some of these patent claims. I'm not sure exactly why, but the psychological attitude was, I guess they can get away with that. This time, Facebook's about to IPO. Yahoo went after them for patents, and Silicon Valley erupted and said, "You're just being petty. Your business is failing," and I think that has a lot to do with it. Yahoo was a much more successful company when they sued Google. Your business is failing, and you're just doing this as a last gasp.
Yeah, it's desperate
to fulfill your failing company. And so we don't care if Facebook buys a bunch of patents from patent trolls because you're in the wrong. And Yahoo's going, yeah, but patent trolls. We said patent trolls. Everyone hates patent trolls, right?
Well, that and Yahoo and Google were in the same space, right? Nobody thinks Google. They don't think Facebook and Yahoo are in the same space when it comes to competition, even though they both have a lot.
Even though Yahoo thinks they are.
A lot of advertising stuff that goes on with two companies, but search engines.
Yahoo thinks they're a social network too.
Yeah, well, what was their
delusions of grandeur?
Did they have a Buzz
Spaces.
or something?
Yahoo Spaces.
It was Yahoo Buzz, right?
Or something. Yahoo Buzz. I don't know. Anyway,
there was a thing.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Give me a minute.
It was so great. It left such a memory in us all.
I did a story about it too.
Yahoo Buzz.
It's closed down now.
But your point, I mean, before I distracted you with social network.
My point was simply that this is nonsense. Like you can argue all you want, Yahoo. If Facebook arms itself with patents, well, they can. So there.
I mean, they're working within
Brilliant.
The you know.
They're both working
laws.
within the law. Yahoo has the right to file the suit, and Facebook has the right to defend themselves and file a countersuit.
Yeah, it's easy to be like, well, this is pretty unethical.
Yeah.
No one's acting in good faith here. But I mean, when Yahoo launched the patent lawsuit against Facebook initially, I saw a lot of headlines accusing Yahoo of acting like a patent troll as well.
Yeah,
So,
even though Yahoo's like, yeah, but we filed these, and there were people like, yeah, I worked there when I filed them, and you promised you wouldn't use them to sue people. You promised that you'd use them defensively, and then we see Twitter
Bayo, for example,
do the new cert thing. If you file a patent when you're a Twitter employee, it will only be used defensively, and you get to approve its use, even if it's sold to somebody else.
I just want to give points to Facebook's PR because they write the best stuff. We remain perplexed. Like it's just like we don't know what you're doing.
Yahoo's erratic.
It's like it's disheveled in the corner behind a bush.
Old
we don't
man
know.
shuffling around in the corner. What are
we
they
just don't
talking
know
about?
what this nutty company's going to do next.
I'm a little afraid of them, frankly. They need to be put in a home. All right, let's
Restraining order.
Let's move on to the news fuse. Not to be left out of the cloud storage news this week, Dropbox introduced version 1.4 of its applications, which will auto-upload videos and photos. And if you're worried that camera uploads are going to eat up all your storage, Dropbox will increase your storage every time you upload 500 megabytes of photos and videos using the feature with a max of 3 gigabytes extra for free.
So, how much would you pay to make the car you already have a self-driving car?
One Instagram.
According to a J.D. Power and Associates survey, 20% of vehicle owners said that they'd probably or definitely pay $3,000 to make their cars drive themselves. 25% of men were up for the feature, while only 14% of women were.
That's interesting.
That's strange.
Girls, come on. It's going to be awesome.
They're like, no, we want it free. We want the men to pay for it. I don't know.
25.
The price did make a difference in the survey. Apple's hit the 10,000 app mark in its Mac App Store, according to two sites, Mac Generation and Mac Rumors. The App Store is available on Snow Leopard and higher and launched back in January 2011. Of course, Apple didn't confirm the number. They just said, yeah, we have apps.
Nice. Google doesn't seem to be down despite all kinds of pressure from the government, investigations. Because if you search for, get this, Zerg Rush, you'll be greeted with a game. That's right.
StarCraft.
Letter O's start dropping from the top of the screen and destroying search results. So you got to click them real fast
Swarm.
to stop the destruction. Anyway, if the Zerg Rush thing sounds familiar, you already know that that's from StarCraft.
Why don't they do a Protoss rush?
Oh.
The PlayStation Vita might be able to play PS1 games soon. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, a PS1 game, showed up in the European Vita store, was not playable directly, according to a user at the NeoGAF forum, NeoGAF. The game boots in a PSP emulator. Sony's Shuhei Yoshida said via Twitter that PS1 support is coming, and everyone should just keep calm and carry on.
French gaming site Game Cult has posted leaked video of Rayman Legends, the follow-up to Rayman Origins. The Wii U version will have online gameplay, new characters, and NFC support. An Ubisoft spokesperson confirmed with GameSpot that the video is indeed the real thing and is simply an internal demonstrative video and isn't the finished game.
An internal presentation slide from HP has leaked showing the HP Slate 8. So it's an 8-inch tablet, right? No, it's got a 10.1-inch display, but the 8 refers to Windows 8 because the device will come to Windows 8 Professional. The tablet is next to an Elite book in the slide, which has people guessing, well, this is part of the Elite line. The slide also says it'll have 8 to 10 hours battery life and have an aluminum body.
It's going to be hard to get into WWDC. You know, first of all, the event sold out in 2 hours, and now Apple's canceling orders from companies that ordered multiple tickets using the same credit card. But the Next Web is reporting that Apple's actually reinstating those tickets. All you have to do is contact them.
NHK partnered up with Panasonic to build a ginormous 145-inch 8K plasma TV with a resolution of 7680 by 4320. The prototype will be demonstrated at NHK's open house in May. Before you snicker that, hey, there's no 8K content to watch on that thing, the 2012 London Olympics will be offered in 8K resolution from NHK and BBC at screenings in Japan, the U.S., and the U.K.
We saw 6K stuff at NAB.
Yeah,
I mean, 8K is right
Maybe
on
not
the
be a
corner.
lot, but it's possible.
There'll be new content. The Olympics?
I was in Best Buy last night, and I saw an 80-inch TV up close for the first time, and I was like, wow.
Dude, you
80
can see
inches.
the pixels. At
Wasn't
80 inches in
4K
HD.
or 8K or anything
Man,
else,
HD
but
looks
boy,
so
was
bad
it
that day.
big.
Remember to pay your NHK subscription fee. Oh, mommy. On to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Since Steve Austin delighted our screens, we've been waiting for Bionic Eyes, and they're coming in 2013. A new device is being developed by Bionic Vision Australia, and they plan to begin testing on human patients next year. They're aimed at helping patients with genetic eye conditions see large objects like buildings and cars. They include an implanted chip that uses 98 separate electrodes to stimulate the patient's retina so that they can perceive vision. This is fantastic.
Yeah, they go into testing in 2014, and I don't even have a lack of vision, but I'd like to sign up just to see. You know, I mean, it looks not quite as cool as like Geordie LaForge or like FLIR vision, but I just love the whole augmented vision thing, you know?
Yeah, it's a camera built into a pair of glasses, captures images and transfers them to an external device for processing, so it's a little clunky right now. The data is then sent to the implant, which stimulates the retina. So that's why you see what looks like a pair of glasses, that whole Geordie LaForge thing, when you look at it. And then you mentioned testing in 2014 is for a more accurate high acuity device, which could help patients actually recognize faces and even read large print.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of time before they get it to 8K.
And
then
you just put them in regular people, and you can see like
Put them in a regular.
regular people.
We're
and then-
all going to want to be blind.
Yeah, I mean, we won't.
Give me Bionic
Well, that's
Eyes.
what I want to know is like, does this work like an overlay if you already have vision? Because I would kind of like, you know, like the Google Glasses, that the Glass Project, that seems cool, but why, you know, just put something on a piece of glass in front of my eye when I could just project it right into my retina? Huh?
Well, this is because they have the external source, right? So that it's broadcasting from the camera. That's what's in the glasses. You need to be able to either implant the camera or put it somewhere else.
But who says it has to be a camera? It could be a web browser.
Well, you have to have something receiving the visual. A web browser doesn't receive a visual.
Well, no.
Oh,
like,
you
I'm
just
saying
wanna
a video
have-
card. A video card connected to a computer.
You don't even want the camera anymore. You just
just
want
give
to
me a HUD.
you want to be surfing the web with their. I just want to see like really, really far. And no, I shouldn't have said regular people. It's a horrible thing.
It's all
I
right.
apologize.
We knew what you meant.
I
was
just meant, you know,
giving you grief.
That's the way these things go. Is they're used first for accessibility, and that's fantastic. And then,
But if they're better
and
than-
eventually they can get a wider application.
Then
That's all.
the average eye, level up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bionic Eyes for all.
dude, sign me up.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for Tech News today, Ford, featuring available voice-activated Sync App Link. Sync App Link enables you to control select mobile apps from your smartphone with a simple voice command. So you keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, you're driving safely, but you can tell it to read your Twitter feed. You can tell it to play some radio. You can tell it to listen to some NPR, get the latest breaking news, all with the App Link apps. iHeartRadio Thumbplay service uses simple voice commands. You can find your saved station, skip to the next song, or even give a song a thumbs up. Sync AppLink is built on an API platform, enabling Ford and app developers to bring in-vehicle voice control to more apps without you having to update the AppLink software in your vehicle. You just download the app on your smartphone, and then you hook it up to your car. It works. Ford has a Sync mobile application developer network, enables developers to contact Ford about their app ideas, say, hey, I want to do this in the Ford. Ford says, great, do it on the API. We'll bring you a bunch of apps all the time. You can expect to see more Sync-enabled mobile apps that can go along for the ride in Ford vehicles soon. Learn more about Sync, AppLink, and other technologies at Ford.com/technology. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Let's check what's incoming. No, let's check the calendar, because I was looking at the wrong thing. But thank you, Chad, for correcting me.
The new iPad. It's not an iPan, actually. That would be awesome.
In the hospital.
But that's...
the iPad.
I was thinking in the kitchen,
I was thinking
actually.
the kitchen, too, yeah.
It's so much
I'm kinda
better
partial
for
to the
cooking.
pan.
Cooking apps on my iPad. The new iPad has landed in 9 new countries as of today. Colombia, Estonia, India, Israel, Latvia, Lithuania, Montenegro, South Africa, and Thailand. This is the 4th stage of Apple's staggered worldwide rollout. Tomorrow is NVIDIA's special GeForce announcement from their LAN NVIDIA Gaming Festival going on in Shanghai. So at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, which would be, I guess, the following day in Shanghai, we will know what this announcement is all about. Monday, Google Wave is going to crumble into the sea.
Oh, poor
So,
Gina Trapani.
Yeah, this weekend. Well...
Well, she wrote the book. That's what.
She's prepared for this.
I know.
In fact, editing on Google Wave has been disabled since January 31st. But this weekend is your last chance to read and export anything that's on Google Wave before it really, really goes away. And finally, next Thursday, May 3rd,
Yeah,
big
we're
deal.
celebrating Hack 5's last binary episode, Season 11, Episode 11, for at least another 50 years. So come down to the party in Point Richmond, hack5.org/1111.
That'll help.
Thursday.
Can help celebrate this new Samsung Galaxy announcement, whatever it ends up being.
Oh, yeah.
Same day.
It won't be there.
No, but you could say, "Hey, did you hear about that announcement?"
Yeah, we could say that. It's also 80s night, so you could bring your,
And
Ray-Bans.
wow, listen to that Wham! That's
Hey,
awesome.
Duran.
Duran.
Let's be serious
All right,
here.
What do you have against Wham?
I don't know.
Sheesh.
Don't
I'll
look at
wake you up
me.
before you go.
Where's Michael? One of the best artists of all time.
Wake me up before incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a voicemail to our phone line, 260-TNT show, that talks about one of the drawbacks to using Google Music so that you don't have to upload all your music to Google Drive.
TNT show. This is Tim in St. Louis. Just listened to today's show. The comment somebody made about using Google Music to back up your music. I guess it'll work for most people, but if you upload a bunch of your high-quality music, the files that they send you back don't seem to be the same quality. I mean, if I had a bunch of even, higher or lossless files, they don't keep those. Whenever you upload them, from what I understand, they get transcoded. So if anybody's a big audiophile or even just doesn't like hearing crap, that's what I got to say. Thanks.
So
I'm
there's some
assuming
Google
he's
Music
on a
file.
bi-state bus, and that's the noise, and he's not driving.
Or he's by a fan.
Yeah, or something. Anyway, you're saying.
Okay, well, he might be a passenger in their carpooling or something. So it's downgrading your music files if they're over a certain
If you
file
lossless,
format.
like a FLAC or a OGG Vorbis, they'll end up transcoding to MP3.
Oh, this is a feature, though. They're just trying to conserve your bandwidth. They know about the bandwidth caps with the downloading and whatnot, and they figured you already spent your time uploading your music to us. Let's just make it a little smaller when you want to get access to it.
That's actually a very good point. But you need to know that.
Yeah.
That Google Music is not a locker. It's not storage. And actually, I've had a few people email us saying, hey, Google Drive processes files. I stored some .movs there, and when I re-downloaded them, they'd been altered. They'd been changed.
Well, that's the same thing, though. Again, they're just changing it depending on the device and the bandwidth that you currently have available. That's a great
But how do I make
usability.
sure I get the original file back in the original way I put it up there?
Well,
I
why
mean,
would
with
you
Dropbox,
delete it after you put it up there?
With Dropbox, I don't do that. I don't have to worry about that.
Totally different concepts, though.
Google Drive and Dropbox, they're
I
not
don't
totally
consider
different
them-
concepts.
I do not.
It's
consider
accessing your files from a variety of places, right? That's the whole point of the cloud.
Especially with
Yeah,
client.
Google
if you're on a
Drive is
Mac or
the,
a
is the
PC.
hard drive for Chrome OS.
Sorry,
to me,
you know
that's
what?
the same thing.
them. Google Drive is dead to me until they have a Linux client. So, or at least
They
give
say
us
it's coming soon.
rsync or Fuse. Anyway,
They
I'll
say the
digress.
Linux client
I
is
know,
coming
I know.
really soon.
Okay, fine. Then it'll be alive to me.
All right. We'll talk to you again then.
Yeah, but don't delete your original content. Put that thing on a
If you're
backup.
an audio file, why would you
tape.
upload that and go, like, I can't believe this thing that's streaming on my phone sucks? It's like if you're an audio file,
I
you
want
don't do
lossless.
Yeah, it's like, come on, seriously, you know what you're doing. If you're an audio file, you wouldn't be doing this.
All right, we got an email from Ted the engineer who says, "Howdy Tech News today. Yesterday, Tom mentioned that he's never seen a 3D phone in the wild.
That's right.
Lies.
What?
Lies.
What?
At this past year's BlizzCon, I finally met Tom in real life, and I took a photo with him. A 3D photo on my 3D phone, the Evo 3D. See the attached photo. We even did the point hands at screen thing to show off the fact that it was 3D. Now, I'll be frank. I don't use the 3D unless I want to show someone the 3D. So I don't disagree with him about the usefulness of the mobile 3D. But it happened. It happened.
Yeah, we've been uploading Hack 5 in like high enough res
Thank you,
that
Ted.
we're on 3D.
Taking Tom to task.
I would say Pixar didn't happen, but he's got pics.
Yep.
So it happened.
All I can say is, you say, now I'll be Frank. Which is it, Ted? Are you Ted or Frank? Pick a side.
Stop calling him Shirley.
That's hilarious. I totally remember this now after he sent this email. So you're right, Ted. I have seen a 3D phone in the wild.
But it was forgettable, apparently.
But
So
it was-
there's something to be said about
It
that.
was wild. That's the thing. It was BlizzCon, man. What happens at BlizzCon stays at BlizzCon. No, thanks, Ted. I appreciate that. And the worst thing is in the picture, you can see that I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a 3D because I'm going to point towards it
Yeah,
because it's a
cool.
3D. And
Look at
I
us,
remember being like,
Z-axis.
oh, that's so cool. You know, I'm glad you got one of these. I haven't seen one before. I'm going to totally forget about seeing it now. But I remember meeting Ted, and that's what's important. What's also important is that you tell us what stories you would like us to cover every day on Tech News Today by going to our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for the children that watch this show because they want to know about CISPA. They want to know about $3,000 to add self-driving to your next car. They want to know about the Zerg rush, and they'll only know if you tell us to tell them. Do it today, technewstoday.reddit.com. We thank you for their support or your support for them. Darren, what's going on with Hack 5?
Well, if you've ever been interested in proxies or SSH or key pair exchanges, things like that, we just whiteboarded our table, and now we're like really breaking down awesome concepts, and I'm really proud of the last 3 weeks of shows. So not like they weren't all great, but just go to hack5.org, get yourself learned up. I think you'll really enjoy it.
I want to finish today's show with a personal apology to Chaos Star 13, who feels I've been slacking on my segues. He's right. I was, and I won't let it happen again.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. That's it for today's show. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Who's going to join us on Monday? It's Russ Pitts from Polygon.
Yay!
We'll see you then.